guys, my name's Kat. I have decided to start a booktube channel. It's something I've been wanting to do for quite a while. Just never had the opportunity, never had the privacy to do it. I finally am capable of doing it. I have been able to purchase a few pieces of cheap equipment, and I am now in my own home. I have bought a house a couple months ago. So we are currently in a bedroom that is not a bedroom. It is sort of spare things, spare artwork. But for the most part, this room is full of books, and it is going to be a library / office type room for myself, and I currently do not have bookshelves available to put these books on. So they are currently, most of the books that I have already read are in a tote box. The rest of them are sitting out and about, scattered around, because I'm trying to organize or something. The reason I'm doing the video in this room is because it's the only place on the first floor where I can shut the door, because if she comes in, she will climb up all over this delicate setup that I have going and kind of mess it up. You'll probably hear her in the background meowing for me to open the door, because she doesn't like the doors to be shut at all, period. The reason for today's video that inspired me is I purchased quite a lot of books this month, probably about 15 or 16 of them. I have a book haul to go through. It's kind of more books than I have bought in 1 month in my whole life. So I'm going to go through all the books that I bought this month, month of July. There's only 2 that I've read already. Those 2 books that I have already read, first one being Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Rebecca is about a young woman who marries a widower and moves into his English manor, and there's a lot of mystery and intrigue surrounding the death of his previous wife. Like I said, I've already read this book. I finished it last week. I thought it was very, very good. If you're into gothic horror or gothic mystery in the vein of Jane Eyre or any Bronte, then I would recommend this book. It's very, very good. The next book I picked up was The Book of Longings by Sue Monk Kidd. I have read Sue Monk Kidd in the past. I read The Secret Life of Bees when I was a young teenager and really liked it. So I was very excited to see this book. The Invention of Wings didn't appeal to me as much when I read the synopses, and I'm not the type of reader that tends to just follow authors just because I liked one of their books. I tend to pick and choose concepts that appeal to me. When I saw that this book was being released, I really was captivated by such a brazen concept as having a story about the wife of the historical Jesus. It's pretty rare to see something like that in popular fiction. I have about 15 pages left of it before I'm done. The only reason I haven't finished it is because I fell asleep while I was reading it and woke up and immediately had to go to the hair salon today. I will hopefully finish it after I do this video. Continuing on with another classic is The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. I've never read any John Steinbeck, so I'm really excited to read this. It's about a family during the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl in the 1930s, and I have not seen a movie about it. So flipping through some of the pages, it looks like it's going to be a very compelling read. So if you've read it, let me know what you think so I can be more excited. The next book I picked up is America's First Daughter by Stephanie Dre and Laura Camoy. It is about Thomas Jefferson's white daughter, not any of his children, by Sally Hemings, although she and they are features in the book, I believe significant features. It is based on the early writings and letters by Thomas Jefferson to other contemporaries of his time and his daughter's relationship with those people that he wrote to. I don't think I've ever read anything like this. I do read a lot of historical fiction. I do read a lot of historical nonfiction. I'm not quite sure where this falls in terms of what's true, what's factual, what's just made up for the sake of story. Not heard a lot about it from other readers or critics. I just know that it was something that appealed to me, so I'm going to read it hopefully sometime soon. The next book I picked up was Titans by Layla Meacham. I've never read any Layla Meacham. I never heard of her or her books. I saw this at the bookstore, read the back of it, and I thought that was right up my alley. It is about two families on a Texas cattle ranch in the 1900s, early 1900s, and there's, I believe, more of a Romeo and Juliet kind of situation going on with the families. For such a hunk of a book, it's only 500 pages, which surprises me. If any of you have read this or read any other Layla Meacham, let me know in the comments what you think. I'd love to know your thoughts. The next book I picked up was A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. I read The Kite Runner a few years ago, thought it was really good. It's one of my favorite books. I'm surprised how long it took me to get a hold of A Thousand Splendid Suns. It's one of those books that's considered sort of a classic now as well, in a similar way as The Kite Runner is. Really excited to read this. I know that it's as well received as The Kite Runner was. I also picked up And the Mountains Echoed by Khaled Hosseini. I hadn't heard of this book before seeing it in the book side alongside A Thousand Splendid Suns. I didn't know he wrote a third book. I think that there are some differences compared to his previous works that maybe as many people didn't jive with. It has a different sort of plot development, a different sort of writing style. There's multiple POVs, I think. I believe, though, it still stays true to a kind of family saga type book, which I'm really interested in right now and want to read more of. The next book I picked up was Sharks in the Time of Saviors by Kauai Strong Washburn. So this book is about a young child who falls overboard on a sea adventure outside the coast of Hawaii. The child is saved by sharks, and the family believes that there are supernatural elements or powers related to the child and the rest of the family as it continues on in the story. I'm so excited to read this. You have no clue. If you've read it, I want to know your thoughts because I have not seen a lot of people talk about this book, even though I've seen it everywhere. I've just not seen people actually talking about having read it. The next book I picked up was Beheld by Tara Shea Nesbitt. When I first saw the cover of this book, I was immediately enthralled with it. I mean, I think it's so beautiful. I think it's one of those books that you really want to have just because of the cover, even if the story doesn't appeal to you. Although, for my part, the story does appeal to me because it is historical fiction, which is one of my favorite genres. Beheld is a story about the Pilgrims after they have landed in Plymouth. It's about 10 years after the fact, and they are very unhappy with the circumstances of the ruling class and the governing bodies that they are beholden to. So, Beheld. It looks like a pretty brief read. It's about 300 pages. One of my shortest books that I picked up this month. The next book I picked up was The Island of Sea Women by Lisa C. I've heard a lot of good things about this book. I think it's very much seen as a book about female empowerment and female relationships because it is about two young Korean women as they grow alongside each other as they work as divers during multiple events that occur in Korean history, such as Japanese occupation and the Korean War and World War. The next book I picked up is Dracul by Dockery Stoker and J.D. Barker. It is somewhere between a nonfiction and a fiction, as it's written by the great nephew of Bram Stoker. It's about Bram Stoker's life prior to writing Dracula and sort of the experiences he had that led him to write the story, the kind of mindset that he was in when the story came about in his mind. I think it's going to be one that I read later on towards the fall, just because I really want to live in that Halloween kind of vibe for a while when it comes to be fall, and this is a perfect way to do that. The next book I picked up was Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. I know that it's one of the most popular trilogies written in recent memory for historical fiction fans. It wasn't something that really interested me at the times that I was seeing it, just because I'm not that big of a fan of Tudor history specifically, but I do like the time period in which it was written, and the title and the cover seems very interesting. I've seen a little bit of excerpts by Hilary Mantel's writing, and it seems like it's trying to be very accurate to language styles of back then. So that excites me. I like to learn a little bit. Let me know what you think if you've read this. If I like it, I'll continue on with the series. If I don't, I probably will not continue with it. The next book I picked up was Homegoing by Yagyasi. I know her new book, Transcendent Kingdom, is getting a lot of good reviews, and that's what inspired me to pick up this book. I wanted to have sort of an introduction to her writing, and also reading the synopses, I was immediately interested. I mean, it's about two girls' lineage of descendants, and one lineage ends up staying in Africa, I believe it's specifically Ghana, and the other lineage ends up in America, in Mississippi, I think, and sort of how both branches of the family and how they end up in the current era of today's time. The last book I picked up is a nonfiction book called The Oregon Trail, A New American Journey by Rinker Buck. It is something that's been on my TBR for about 2 years now. Saw it at the bookstore today and decided to pick it up because I got a pretty good deal on it. It is about the author as he travels in the same way that the original settlers traveled, such as using a horse and buggy and the same trails. It's a type of book I've never really read before. I do read a lot of nonfiction, but I don't really read a lot of memoir-esque type nonfiction like this. So I'm excited to read it. I hope it's informative. I hope that it teaches me a lot about the history of the Oregon Trail and how people lived while they were traveling. Okay guys, so that's everything. That's all the books that I picked up this month. I do plan to do an August wrap up if I read enough books to satisfy myself. I go in and out quite a lot of reading slumps. But right now I'm in a pretty good mood of reading, and I hope to continue doing that. If you're interested in following me on any other social media platforms, I will be linking those in the description box. Thanks for watching if you've made it this far. I hope that you have a really good day.